Hello and welcome back to the final part of being a good mentee. Here we're going to be talking about the kinds of things that you can expect from your mentor, the sorts of principles that you can expect to work from. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is I'm actually going to ask you to pause this video and to just spend a few minutes thinking about what principles do you think a mentor should adhere to. Now guys, I would imagine that as I go through these, there's going to be a few of these that you've already got. There's going to be a few of these that actually you go, oh, what's that? I wasn't aware of that. The first one is trust. It's really important that you can trust your mentor, just the same as it's really important for them that they can trust you. So the first principle within mentoring is the principle of trust. The second principle is the principle of confidentiality. It goes alongside it. You need to trust that your mentor will be confidential with the data or with the information that you share. And this is an example of why a manager does not necessarily make a good mentor for you. Because let's say you're struggling with your job. It doesn't matter what it is, but let's say you're struggling with your job and you go to your mentor for help because actually you want to help get better. You want them to help you to give you some tips, give you some hacks, give you some strategies to make you a better employee. Now, if you're going to your manager, on the other hand, and saying, I can't do my job, then they're going to be thinking, is this to do with us giving you too much work? Or is this to do with you not being able to do your job? Actually, is this what we would call a capability issue? Are you capable to do your job? Or do I need to look at ways of firing you? Now, for a manager mentor, if you're coming to me as either as a subordinate or as a mentee and saying, I'm struggling to do my job, it's going to be really hard. I'm going to have an internal conflict automatically about what to advise you, about what to say to you. And likewise, actually, that brings in issues around confidentiality as well, because actually what things you tell your manager, let's say it says about workload, for example, if you went to your mentor to talk about your workload, but actually the manager there, because they put their manager hat on, not their mentor hat on, and then they go and talk to their management about, well, Daisy's really struggling with the workload, I need more staff. And immediately that's then breached the confidentiality of your conversation. And so this is why we say, actually, managers really shouldn't be mentors. So we've got trust, we've got the principle of confidentiality. The next one is the principle of boundaries or boundaried relationship. This is really important because actually as your mentor, it's important that I stand back from you a little bit, that we have some gap in between us. I will be friendly to you, but I cannot be your friend. I can't be in a personal relationship with you of some kind. I cannot be your mate because actually that immediately would conflict with my role as your mentor. And so we are friendly with you, but we are not your friend. Now, after our mentoring has finished, that may be very different. However, throughout and during our mentoring, actually, we are boundaried. We have a very boundaried relationship. The next thing is really important that your mentor is emotionally intelligent. Now, emotional intelligence is partly about emotional literacy, so being able to read your emotions and your emotional reaction, but also emotional intelligence is about being able to act and to take the correct action in order to be able to appropriately manage your emotions. An example would be if you as my mentee tell me a really awful traumatic story and it makes me feel really, really sad, I may want to cry to express it, but actually I may hold that within and then express that sadness later on, because actually my focus is on you and supporting you. Another example would be, actually, I know, sharing you a little bit now, but I know that someone ignoring me really pushes my buttons. It really irritates me. It really winds me up. Now, if a mentee just ignores me, then inside me, I'm going to have an emotional reaction. I'm not going to show it on the outside because I've learned how to manage that. But it's really important that your mentors are emotionally intelligent, that actually they're able to deal with their emotions, because it can be, for them and for you, it can be a very intense relationship. The next thing I want to talk to you about is something called unconscious bias. Unconscious bias is basically where your brain's taken a bit of a shortcut on something. An example would be, I would say to you, picture a nurse. Most of you will picture a female nurse, because what's happened there is your brain, along the way and during your childhood, normally your brain has said nurse, gender, male, female. Therefore, when you picture a nurse, it's a female nurse. Your brain misses out the middle decision and just goes straight to there. It tries to be helpful. It's trying to take a shortcut. It's trying to make your thinking faster. Now, unfortunately, because it's the way your brain it has wired itself, and it can be unlearned as well later on, by the way, but where your brain has wired itself, you won't realise that that's happening, which is why it's an unconscious bias. The moment you realise it's happening, like it's probably just happened to you about thinking about a nurse, actually you'll then start to furiously think about all of the male nurses that you know. Just the same as if I said to you about doctors, although it's less of an issue with doctors. But if I spoke to you about doctors, or I spoke to you about lawyers, for example, if I spoke to you about lawyers, you'd probably, most of you would imagine a man to start off with, and then begin furiously trying to think about some female lawyers that you could think of. And that's because what's happened is an unconscious bias has become conscious. It's really important that we understand this. There are issues around race, there are issues around gender, there are issues about generational factors here. So it could be that someone of an older generation believes that younger generations are all lazy or just all addicted to their phones and all the rest of it. Now, that is an unconscious bias. That is something that happens. Another example would be the generational bias. Let's say someone of an older generation thinks that the younger generations are always on their phone and they're addicted to phones and they can't do anything without their phone, for example. That is based on their experience. Their brain's trying to take a shortcut. And so actually you might be completely different. And there's an example of how unconscious bias can affect things. So this is really important. The next thing I want to say in terms of principles of mentors is that they use their network. They use their network. Actually, they have contacts who might be able to help you. When actually, for your mentor, when it's time for them to stop mentoring you, because you will benefit from being mentored by someone else, actually they signpost you, or they refer you, or they pass you on to a more appropriate person. It's really important that principle of mentoring is that actually mentors use their network. And finally, the last thing is that a mentor recognizes when to end the relationship. This is absolutely vital, because if you are going to have a mentor long term, then all that's going to happen is you're going to become dependent on that mentor. That's not the purpose of mentoring. For your mentor, they're going to be thinking about, okay, when is the right time to end that relationship? Take a couple of seconds now, just pause this video and just think about, okay, when would a mentoring relationship end? Now, there are 4 reasons that a mentoring relationship would end. The first one is that actually you're going to change mentors. So you're going to start working with another mentor. So therefore, we're going to stop our mentoring sessions, maybe just for a short bit, but we're going to stop our mentoring sessions for the time being. So the first one is change of mentor. The second one is that your situation changes. Maybe you move house, maybe you move somewhere further away, you quit that job, or you change jobs, something like that. You go to a different university, or actually you start university. The third thing is that actually maybe you've started engaging with a professional service. An example would be that, particularly through pastoral mentoring, it might be that you've ended up being referred through for counselling to talk about some issues you're experiencing. Maybe, for example, like I did, I received counselling for some acute depression about sort of 10, 12 years ago. I was referred for that support. Now, it was work related, and so actually if I'd had a workplace, which I didn't, but if I'd had a workplace mentor, it wouldn't have been appropriate for me to continue with the mentor, because I was going to be talking about the same things with the mentor as I would do with the counsellor. Obviously, the counsellor is higher in the pecking order than the mentor is. And finally, and this is where I'm going to end it on a nice big positive. Actually, it might be that the mentor and you decide to finish or end that relationship because there is no further need for you to receive that mentoring. Now, I've thoroughly enjoyed being with you on these videos, talking about how to help you to get the most out of your mentoring sessions. I really hope this has a tremendous impact on the support that you're going to receive. I am really passionate about mentoring. And please, if anyone you know wants to do this course, or if anyone you know wants some mentor training, please do get in touch with us at The Mentoring School. Our website is thementoringschool.com. It's been a real delight. Thank you all so very, very much. This is Richard Daniel Curtis saying good luck and goodbye.